in 1960, Ross was invited to enter into the competition, even though we were under the state advance and not under Māori affairs. And there was a bit of opposition to him entering because he wasn't classed as a Māori farmer. We just had 112 acres really, and even though we were just only taken over our farm in 1954 from raw state, the second year, then we started milking with 75 heifers. You can imagine trying to break in 75 heifers. It was tough, it was really tough. Mind you, I was never a dairy farmer. I was brought up on beef and sheep at Kaitoto Station up in Maraihara River. So it was a real culture shock to have to milk cows and have babies at the same time. In 1964, surprise, surprise, we were the overall winner. Well, he was, because in those days the wife was not recognised in partnership. They brought the cup to Wellsford and put it in the Bank of New Zealand at the time. And a couple of days after, they had the A&P show, and that was when it was presented to us. We weren't allowed to take it home or anything. We were only allowed to touch it, but and take a photo, have a photo taken with it. And we had Awatere, Peter Awatere and his haka group come from Auckland, and Matt Rata was there at the time. I would encourage any young farmer, Māori farmer, to enter the ahuwhenua competition. There's prestige in it, and the knowledge you gain from competing against other farmers, it would be it's just the most amazing thing.
My father-in-law helped me into the farming, and we bought 50 acres and we milked 45 cows in our first year. We had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and the second one, I picked her up from the maternity home and she was straight back into the cow shed that night. You've got to feed the cows right through the year, not just during the time that they're milking. When we bought the second farm, I bought cows that 2 big dairy farms were culling out to bring my numbers up to 100. My aim was to get the production up to over 400 pounds of butterfat in those days per cow, and I did that. An uncle of Nola's said to me, well, why don't you go in for that ahuwhenua cup? And I said, oh, you have to be a pretty good farmer to do that, don't you? And he said, you're good enough. Yeah. Went to Maori Affairs, sort of accepted it and went from there. I was notified through Maori Affairs that I'd won the trophy. And because there was no big celebrations or anything like that, I think it was a shock to the district and it was a shock to me. The second time was much bigger. The Prime Minister at that time was Keith Holyoake. He presented it to me. No one in this area sort of took much notice of, what's that, he's only won that cup. Anyone can win that cup, but anyone can't win it. I remember when I won it the second time, I think I got $400.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then I read recently where you get about $40,000. The medal is something really great. Occasionally I look at it and I think, oh yeah, it's me. Yeah.
We lived in a sort of a big marae situation, you might say, where there was 15 families. We used to see all this land around us, but there was no Maoris working it. It was all Pākehā people working it, and I thought they used to own it, but they didn't. We owned it, and they farmed it, and I couldn't make much sense of that because our father died quite early in our lives. Our eldest brother took over as our figurehead, and as much as we shore and worked, and we never seemed to have quite enough money, and Punga went to a few lending institutes. I think there was state advances and others, but we weren't able to get money from them because we had Maori in us. We had to go to Maori Affairs and ask for money, and they gave it to us. part of the criteria if we borrowed money from Maori Affairs, that they would automatically put us into the Ahu Whenua farming trophy. Punga never told us that until the day that he said, "Oh, look, we got to go out to the marae." We went out there and we drove in there and we said, "What the hell's all these buggers doing here?" The Governor General, who was then Sir Keith Holyoake, he presented us with that trophy. What he actually said to us was, you know, we were good shearers, we were good farmers, we were good rugby players. So he said we had to be bloody good Kiwis. And I remember that. And it did open the doors for us in a lot of respects, you know, like financially and sort of able to go into a cooperation like Hawke's Bay Farmers and open an account. They was, "Oh, yeah, you fellas won that, so you can start an account up here." So I would say to those fellas, "Boy, get out there and do it, because we're good at it, you get a hell of a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's very satisfying."